Hi, my name is Dr. Anna Baranowsky, and I'm fortunate to have Dr. Jonice Webb, who is the author of Running on Empty, and she is an expert in childhood emotional neglect. And Jonice, this is our second call, and I'm so excited because I know we're going to focus on some more practical things today. So welcome again, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me back. Glad to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited too. Where do people start if they want to address this emotional neglect problem?
The first step is recognizing it, and it seems simple, but it's a huge piece of recovery. It's so hard to know that you're emotionally neglected because the incidents of emotional neglect are so invisible. So it's very difficult for anyone to know unless it was really obvious neglect that had physical in with it. Emotional neglect it really just kind of lies there even under people's trauma and affects them on a day-to-day basis through their entire lives. And once you realize that it's there and that it had an effect on you, it frees you up to do all kinds of work on it and on other issues too. So recognizing it is huge.
So what should they be looking for?
Well, there are a number of signs. One is if you're really prone to blame yourself and be angry at yourself. If you get mad at yourself for being emotional, or if you tend to belittle your emotions, or you pride yourself on being strong and unemotional, those are definitely signs. Having this kind of chronic feeling of emptiness inside is another major sign that you grew up with childhood emotional neglect.
Well, and as you're saying that, because I do so much work with professionals, whether they're therapists themselves, or they're first responders, or they're individuals who are in the business of helping other people. This story, I hear this all the time. And so that's very helpful, that clarification. So now you said just knowing it, accepting it, embracing that, that's a first big step. But there are other early steps to childhood emotional recovery. What are they?
The hugest step that you start in the beginning and happens all the way through recovery is starting to get in touch with your feelings. So when you grow up, the definition of childhood emotional neglect is growing up in a household where your feelings are either ignored or discouraged. So when you grow up this way, you take all of your feelings as a child. Your brain just naturally does this to adapt, puts all the emotions on the other side of a wall. And then as an adult, you're living your life without proper access to them. So the second step, is starting to break through that wall and let some of those emotions come through, accepting them, and starting to actually use them because they're extremely helpful in life.
I love the term, just show up for yourself. It's something that I've been having people learn how to say to themselves. And I find that when they're able to embrace this very simple line, just show up for yourself, something can shift inside of a person because it's the piece that was missing. It sounds like that fits really well with the childhood emotional neglect stuff.
It does, because part of neglect is that your parents didn't show up for you emotionally, and that gives you the message that you're not worth showing up for. And part of one of the biggest symptoms of childhood emotional neglect is feeling like you shouldn't take up too much space in the world, and feeling like everyone else's needs are more important than yours. And so that phrase, just show up for yourself, is a way of saying you matter, stand up and take up space. It's okay, ask for things. It's okay to need things. It's okay to have an opinion. Just put yourself in there and be you.
Wow, I just love your approach, and I love the gentleness of it as well. Like when I hear you talk, I can see how you have such a depth of compassion and understanding. But there's another piece of it. It's the lonely feelings that I wonder how you help people with those big lonely feelings, because they can come up in the worst kinds of times. It's like...
Yeah, what's interesting? It's not always loneliness. It's different for different people. I think it depends the form that your childhood emotional neglect took as a child. That if it's the feeling that you had as a child. If you felt alone, then your core feeling you're going to get in touch with, probably one of the first ones, because it's the most powerful, is going to be loneliness. I think part of it is recognizing the difference between the feeling of loneliness and actually being alone, because part of childhood emotional neglect is that because your feelings are all split off from you, they're all on the other side of the wall, or maybe not all of them, but most of them, you don't have the emotion that connects you to other people and that everyone else walks around with, feeling connected by. So it leaves you feeling like you're very alone. But once you start breaking through the wall and getting in touch with your feelings and welcoming them, they're then available to connect you with other people. So I've heard so many people who've gone through this process, started getting in touch with their feelings. It starts in little inklings, and then it just grows and grows very gradually. And the people around you start to notice that you're different. And they start to feel, you start drawing people in. And I know I'm making it sound like it's some kind of magic. It's not magic. It's actual work that really changes how people see you and how they respond to you. Yeah. And then the loneliness just gets chipped away gradually.
It's the simple if you know how to do it, but certainly not easy to implement.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that hard work, the heavy lifting of changing your life and how you look at life around you. And what about the resources and tools? And I know that you're involved in an online program that's really exciting as well. So please tell us about that too. But resources, tools, and what people can do.
Sure. One thing I really encourage is self-monitoring, which is, you can make your own self-monitoring sheet, which is just a sheet of paper, or you can do it on your phone or on your laptop, for example, and just pay attention to when you're having a feeling and record it. Like, this time, this day, had this feeling, and if you can put why you think you had it, put that too. So in my book, I have a number of different worksheets that take you through all these different steps of recovery. And self-monitoring is a big part of, every single piece that you work on. Really paying attention is the key. So you're starting to actually pay attention to yourself versus having your focus always external on the outside world and everyone else. Self-monitoring requires you to turn inward, and that's a big key part of recovery. So you mentioned my online program, which is just a targeted program to just take on all these aspects of childhood emotional neglect. And it's not open right now because it's running, but I'm planning to probably run it again in probably the fall. So
how do people sign up for that, just so that they can use the resource if they're ready, or they can sign up for it for the future class?
You can't sign up for it in the future, but if you sign up for my newsletter, then I make you aware when I start running it again.
Right. Okay. Excellent. That's so great. I want to thank you again so much for taking the time to talk with me once again, Dr. Jonice Webb, the author of Running on Empty, and just the idea that you can start to heal emotional neglect by really just accepting the fact that this is something that happened to you, that you can take a big step towards childhood emotional neglect recovery by just accepting that you've got feelings and that it's time for you to show up for yourself, to show up for those lonely feelings, to make space for yourself in your life, and that there are resources that really make a big difference every day, including, I know, your book and the materials that you have available when people go through your online program, as well as the resource that you're going to share with us that we'll make available for everybody. And I just want to thank you so much for making a difference in the lives of those who really need to move forward and grow beyond their trauma.
Thanks so much, Anna.
Thank you.
For more Ask Dr. Anna videos and information about post-traumatic growth and recovery, subscribe and like our YouTube videos at What is PTSD, or join us at previous video episodes in our playlist Ask Dr. Anna from the Traumatology Institute team.